It's kind of like asking you if you have a favorite child. There's maybe
Everybody has a favorite child.
everyone has a favorite child, but you usually don't say it out loud. If you take a man and you put him on a horse, he becomes a warrior. And if you ride a polo pony, you'll know what that means. You're going to have at least 3 horses because one horse can only play 2 periods at most. But at a very high level, you're actually going to be bringing 8, 10, 12 horses to the field per player. We all know about the Crusades, but we don't learn when we go to school in America that the only reason the Crusaders were able to fight was because they had contracts to be getting 5,000 horses from the Armenians per year.
Okay, well, I think you got me on that one. I think Boston might have one cooler thing than Sacramento because in Sacramento... Welcome to the Key Concepts podcast. Today, we're stepping into the world that many people have heard about, but very few understand. It's the world of polo. Behind the horses, the mallets, and the fields, there's something much deeper. Discipline, community, humility, and growth. Today, my special guest is Mark Tasjan. He is the CEO and founder of the Boston Polo Club. Mark, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I want to kind of level set for the audience because a lot of people listening right now might be thinking like, I've heard of polo, but I don't actually know what it is. So let's start there. What is polo?
Most people actually have no idea what it even is. They just think that it has something to do with a horse. And the way I describe it is like hockey on horses. And it was a sport. It's actually the oldest team sport in the world. It was invented by the Persians as a way of training their cavalry back in the day. But it's developed over the years just into this incredible sport with a long history. And modern days is most similar to our type of hockey, but instead of being on ice skates, you're on a horse trying to control another animal.
Basically, hockey is maybe similar, but this is on horses, so it's a lot more involved. How do you actually play the sport? Can you get into a high level summary? How do you win? What do you do?
Yeah, the basic concept is it's 4-on-4, and you are trying to hit a ball into a goal. So you're playing against the other team. You're able to steal the ball from the other team, run all up and down the field. It's played traditionally with 6 periods, but there are other versions where it'll be shorter or longer games based on the level. And you're going to have at least 3 horses because one horse can only play 2 periods at most. But at a very high level, you're actually going to be bringing 8, 10, 12 horses to the field per player. It's this whole community. It's not just the players. There really is this whole entire organization. You've got the trainers for the players. You've got the trainers for the horses. You've got the physical therapists for the players, physical therapists for the horses. The players and the horses need to work together. So it's really this very unique sport that you don't really see anymore of humans having to interact with nature, with horses to be able to accomplish this goal.
So you said it's kind of like hockey. So are there other ways to play polo, or is it exclusive to horses?
The real version of the game is exclusive to horses. People will play on bikes at times and things like that, on elephants. But the actual main game, those versions will have slightly different rules, I believe. But the main type of the sport, which is 4-on-4 with 6 periods, it's on horses. I mean, we're talking about really the oldest team sport in the world. So it's a very traditional sport as well, as you can imagine, with it having such a long history.
How long is the game and how many rounds was there? I think you said 4 rounds?
So traditionally 6 rounds,
6 rounds
is the classic number, but they'll have other numbers as well. And normally a 6-round match, which is called a chukker, and that'll last about an hour and a half.
The game of polo, you mentioned this, or you alluded to it anyways, that it was used in the old times cavalry. So how old is the game of polo and what general time frame was it actually created? How old is this type of game?
So there's at least records dating back to 600 BC. So it's a very old game. There's polo fields in India and in Persia, which again are dating back to the BCs. In Isfahan, there's a field which is something like several hundred BC it dates back to. And so the game today is very similar to the game back then. We have composite mallets and equipment we're using. We're not using the same exact kind of material stuff, but the field is actually based on a polo field in India, but all of the original polo fields were roughly the same size goals, very similar rules.
So this game has been around for a really long time, 3,000 to 4,000 years old. At least in Sacramento, we don't hear about it too much, but it sounds like it's very popular in other parts of the world.
The Byzantines were very big into polo, and actually there was a lot of Armenians emperors who played polo in the Byzantine Empire. But after that, there really wasn't as popular of a game until the British colonized India and took over India. And then they learned to play it in India. And then they brought it to Europe, to America, South America. And so they're the ones who really brought it from the Middle East to the rest of the world.
Wow, what a rich histories from Armenia to India to Persia to pretty much every country has its own flavor of it. Is there any additional like cool things about the history or horses and stuff like that to know about?
One of the interesting things about horses is we have to remember that back in the day when the sport of polo was really first being developed several thousand years ago in India and Persia, horses were like the aircraft of the day. They were the top of the line type of military vehicles. And so the polo ponies and the polo players were the top military vehicles at the time. And again, one of the really neat things to me, being Armenian, is this rich history where I didn't even realize this until I got into the sport. But the more I got into it and learned, we provided the top horses around the world to the Byzantines, to the Franks, to the Crusades. We all know about the Crusades, but we don't learn when we go to school in America that the only reason the Crusaders were able to fight was because they had contracts to be getting 5,000 horses from the Armenians per year. And those were the top horses that they would use. And those same horses were playing polo. John I of Silesian Armenia was one of the top polo players, and he provided 5,000 horses to the Crusaders. And I guarantee you they're the exact same horses that they were playing. So those horses, when you think about the Crusades, were polo ponies playing the game.
Well, next, if I ever get into polo and driving, that's the first thought that's come to my mind. It's like, man, I could be a soldier right now, riding one, or a crusader riding one of these horses right now. It's gonna definitely channel my inner Armenianness.
Mm-hmm. In your inner manhood, it really there's an expression that if you take a man and you put him on a horse, he becomes a warrior. Mm. And if you ride a polo pony, you'll know what that means.
I'm ready to be a warrior, man. You're sold. I'm sold. But, all this polo talk, how did you yourself get into polo? I mean, this is a very unique sport, especially in Sacramento. Like, we don't ever hear this term. Like, it's very new even for me because we don't have fields. We don't have horses in the city. Yeah. So you were in Boston at this time and you created the Boston Polo Club. But how did you get into polo in general?
Yeah. So I grew up, not really knowing very much about horses. My mom wanted me to ride a horse when I was little, so I rode a horse like 2 times. I fell off. I never wanted to have anything to do with them again. And then in college, the college I went to, University of Connecticut, had an agricultural program. I started riding horses because I thought it was like this crazy thing. And I wanted to go to school for economics. My dream was just to get a job in finance and work in New York City and to live in the city. And I did that. I had that finance job. It was as boring as everyone knows finance is. And so by the grace of God, I got laid off in 2008. And I started working at different polo clubs, managing polo clubs, traveling around the world, and just had some incredible opportunities managing some of the coolest different types of polo organizations around the world. And before returning to Boston to start this polo club with the vision of just seeing an opportunity to make it more accessible to people, to give people the opportunity to play this sport, and again, put people in touch with nature. Because like you said, here in Sacramento, like in most places in the world, people are so removed from their roots and most of human history. We all would have been riding horses, not driving cars. And so it is something that's so ingrained in us. Horses are one of the oldest domesticated animals as well. And they're actually domesticated from the Armenian highlands. That's where the horse was first domesticated. So especially in our roots, it's such an old thing that it's amazing giving people the opportunity to go ride a horse for the first time and work them all the way from that point up to being national championship level material.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started working at some of these polo clubs, but then like you had options, right? So you could have played anything. Is it just because you were managing it that you decided to play it?
Yeah, so I played polo in college. I learned to play polo in college, made it to the national championship in college. And then after I played polo professionally, umpired professionally, and I enjoy that, but I really wanted to do more than just play it. I wanted to give people the opportunity that I was given. And that's really the thing that I love. The thing that I enjoy the most is giving people all of these different opportunities that I've been given, being able to afford them that. So I do still play polo occasionally. I do play professionally occasionally, umpire, those sorts of things. But, I'm a little bit older now. Back when I was younger, occasionally when you do fall off, you bounce back quicker. As you get a little bit older, you don't bounce back as quick. So I haven't hung the mallets up yet, but I pick and choose when to play.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So you played it in college. You're like, hey, this is an outdoor game. I love it. I get to be out with nature. I'm not so stuck in a room. I'm not on the bleachers. And so you're getting like the full nature experience. You're like, polo is it. This is what I want to play. What would you say your favorite part of polo is?
So for polo, you need to have total trust in the horses, and they need to have total trust in you as well. So building up that kind of relationship and just working together is really a unique, amazing experience to have. And it's something that from the very first lesson, someone will start to see that kind of a relationship. I taught someone today for the very first time how to ride a horse. It was they rode it like once or twice when they were a kid or something like that. And it was this dream. They're an older man. He's 2 years away from retirement. He comes out to ride, and it's like right away, like his eyes open. He's able to see that he can get this animal that's 1,000-pound animal to listen to him, and he needs to listen to that 1,000-pound animal as well when it's telling him things.
Note to self: don't let a horse fall on you if you ever try polo. So going back through your experience, you probably had a favorite horse. Did you have one? What was his name?
It's kind of like asking you if you have a favorite child.
Everybody has a favorite child.
Everyone has a favorite child, but you usually don't say it out loud. Now, have you ever golfed before?
Yeah.
So if you golf, you have a different mallet that you're going to use for different scenarios. And you're going to have like that golf club that's like your go-to golf club. You're usually going to use that, but you're going to use your other golf clubs at different times. So yeah, there was a horse that I had that was my favorite playing in most games and most scenarios. But then there were other horses that were my favorite in maybe another scenario. So like if I was playing a competitive game, I had one horse, her name was Corona. Amazing horse, amazing athlete. But then I had other horses, like when I was teaching a little kid for the first time, I had this horse named Leela, gentlest horse in the world. She was wonderful. I could think something and she would read my mind and do it, so really amazing horse that I loved. I had her from when she was like 2 years old. There were different horses that you have a different kind of relationship with. But yeah, there was that horse that was like the go-to when you're down by, 2 goals and you need to win this tournament to win the championship, and you need to pull a horse out of the line to go score those 2 goals to win. Like that's the horse that I would grab.
Nice. Wow. So it's kind of like golf in a sense. You have different horses with different attributes or talents that are used for different occasions. Collectively, let's call these horses your children for a second, right? You won't say which one's your favorite out loud, but if your horses could collectively say something to you, what do you think they would say?
They would just thank me probably for the level of care and attention, because they know how much I sacrificed in my life to be able to give them the life that they had.
It's work. I mean, taking care of children in general, but in this case, horses, animals, it's work. So you started playing polo in college. You got introduced to horses when you were younger, and now you're deciding like, okay, maybe I can create my own polo club. So what year did you create the Boston Polo Club?
I've always had an entrepreneurial aspect. I created a little landscaping business when I was a kid and would mow everyone's lawns in the neighborhood and stuff, and created various different little businesses. I've done a lot of sales. I love that kind of thing as well. And so again, I really traveled around the world, from New Zealand to the Netherlands, Germany, in America, Aspen, Colorado, South Carolina, managing different clubs, and moved back to Boston and really saw an opportunity to start a polo club there. And so that was back in 2013.
Nice. Well, it's been around 13 years. It's been a while now. So when you were creating that polo club, what was the mission behind it? What is the mission of the Boston Polo Club?
Yeah, so the mission is really just giving people the opportunity to play polo and to go from having no experience riding a horse to being national championship level material. And it's not only to do that in Boston, but really is to do that around the world. The Polo Club in Boston, my main polo club, I sold in 2024, but I'm still involved. That's part of why I'm here in Sacramento, seeing what's going on here. I mean, Sacramento actually has a huge horse culture, not much polo, but seeing what's going on out here, being involved. I spent 6 months this last year in Armenia, getting to see the situation of the horse culture there and really helping to develop the polo culture around the world.
Nice. And you kind of alluded to this. I mean, you have the entrepreneurial spirit. You had the lawn mowing when you were younger. But then of all the businesses you could have created, like what inspired you to do polo?
So first, there's very few polo clubs that actually do it. And most of them, as you can imagine, are just wealthy people who want to dump a lot of money into something, which creates a business model that is not a very efficient business model that is doomed to fail. And so that's the traditional polo business model. Someone wealthy dumping a lot of money into something that's going to fail, which doesn't create a very good product. And so I saw the opportunity. There's all these people that do want to play polo, and it can be done in a more accessible way. And I also see all of these kinds of benefits to people, benefits to horses, really therapeutic benefits. I mean, like I said, seeing someone who has no experience riding a horse, and then after their first lesson, like their eyes opening up and seeing what they're able to do is such a unique experience that's part of what feeds my passion for it. But also just seeing it is a large business opportunity. You're dealing with a certain type of demographic, which is a fairly resilient type of a demographic to be dealing with, and a growing demographic, unfortunately or fortunately, in our nation today. And so just seeing that as a business opportunity and seeing so many places around the world to have that as a business opportunity.
Yeah, so you're like, man, I'm an entrepreneur. I have that spirit. I know polo, and there's a gap. There's a lot of people that want to play it, but there's not really a good polo club. So let me just create my own. Mm-hmm. And so you just gave it a shot. You're like, I'm just going to create this polo club. Did you run into any challenges those early days when you're like, oh, never created a club before like this? Like, what was that? Those early brainstorming days like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the biggest challenge is that you're going against the grain of something that's a very entrenched type of a sport. And so that was the biggest challenge early on. The second biggest challenge is just letting people know that they can play it. So I've really become good at marketing and the outreach and things like that. So those are the two big difficulties. And then the next difficulty is just being able to find a place, because it does take a lot of land. It takes a lot of horses. And so you need a certain number of people for a geographic area. And you need to find that piece of land that's close enough to the geographic area to be able to actually sustain the sport.
Yeah. And speaking of geographic area, like horses require a lot of space. So where was that first location?
I started with just a couple of horses and just grew it very organically in the beginning, and started by just renting different facilities, and just every 2 years outgrowing that facility, needing to rent a larger one, outgrowing that one. And then eventually I bought a facility. And so that was the general process. And it does take a long time because it's a really unique type of a property you're trying to find. So to try to find one that to buy in any geographic area takes some time. It makes more sense just to rent in the beginning.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So it's not like you had a farm or anything. You're like, I have a facility there I could probably rent. There's another one over there. I got a few horses. Let me start, as you're saying, some of the challenges, marketing and so on and so forth, and letting people know. So you got people together, gave it a shot, set up a few games, rented a few facilities, and then that kind of set you on like, okay, that's the proof of concept. Then I could do the next one, and I could do the next one. And you outgrow it, then you eventually buy your own location. When you were creating the Boston Polo Club, did you ever feel like giving up at all throughout the process?
I don't think I ever thought about it as a serious thought, because I am a very ambitious person, because I'm a very driven person, and I enjoy challenges. Again, I don't want to have some kind of a boring job that's like a simple, boring job. I like something that's a challenge. And also there's so many different pieces of it. And there were very challenging times having the club, and we were always able to innovate, create new revenue streams and things like that. So like our core business was polo, but out of 100 horses, only about half of them were polo ponies. The other half were teaching jumping lessons and things like that, or were equine therapy. We started equine therapy programs. We ended up getting involved in government programs to employ people with disabilities at the farm. We did weddings and other kinds of events. There's so many different kinds of streams to be able to develop from that business model. Once you have it, you have the land, you have the horses, there's all sorts of other things that you can be doing.
When I look at it, I just see, okay, people are playing, but I'm sure there's tons of work that goes into creating the event coordination. You mentioned the marketing a little bit. So, but no one really understands behind the scenes, like what's all going on.
It's like any kind of a business, though. You really don't realize how much is going on behind the scenes, how much is really involved administratively. Like if I go to buy a cup of coffee somewhere, administratively, for me to get the cup of coffee, how many different things had to happen to bring that coffee there and to have that coffee made that could have broken? How many pieces of equipment could have broken to get there? So it's the same kind of thing. There's so many different little pieces. You've got so many different aspects of the maintenance of facilities to be able to get that polo field. Like a polo field is really like a golf course, very meticulously maintained. So you've got everything going behind making that piece of land. You've got everything going behind taking care of the horses, which is a 24-hour business. So you have to have 24-hour coverage and care of these horses, just like your children or something like that. You can't just stick them in the freezer and walk away like a restaurant or something like that and hope it's good in a couple of days. So, you've got the 24-hour care. You've got the marketing and the developing of the clients and that aspect of it. And you've really got a lot of international supply chains and international collaboration going on as well, because a lot of the best horses come from Argentina. The best equipment comes from Argentina. There's a number of other places around the world that are also very well known for equipment, for players. We always have teams coming from all over the world. There's always actually a lot of international logistics, national logistics. It's very seasonal as well. So like right now, if you wanted to go see a match, it's January now in Sacramento, we'd have to go somewhere south, either Southern California or Florida or the Southern Hemisphere. But come the summertime, those places will be too hot. So they're all going to be coming up here and moving their logistics up here. So we always had all sorts of logistics going back and forth across the country, across the world. So there's just so many different little pieces of it.
Yeah, that sounds like a process. How'd you learn how to do all that? Was it just like, oh, pop open the computer, I'm just going to Google this and figure it out? Or what was that learning process like?
I mean, it's like the school of hard knocks and people helping you out, you having to learn. And, when you're a business owner, one of the best things to do is hire people that know more than you.
Nice.
And be humble about the fact that you only know so much. And, I have an idea of how to do something, but I know that it's not the only way. There's always other ways to do it.
Nice. Yeah. So you just built those relationships, you outsourced, you delegated, you figured out what makes sense, and you just let the team kind of make it what it is today. In August of 2016, you ended up buying your location too, and you kind of alluded to this, but you purchased a Twisden Den farm, which is a multidiscipline facility with 80 stalls, arenas, and a polo field. So what made you make the jump from renting to actually buying your own location?
Just the opportunity came up, with outgrowing facilities and getting to the point where I couldn't even rent a facility large enough for my needs anymore. So just to the point of buying that facility. And after buying that facility, we had to go then lease a number of other facilities, do expansions on that facility, and just continue to grow.
If you outgrow, I mean, there's nothing, you got to get more space. In one of your interviews, you were saying how you had a vision to be able to do like hiking, weddings, and you alluded to it earlier as well, where you could use the same venue for multiple things, weddings, even derby. And so did you ever scale into those other revenue streams as well, or event streams?
Yeah. We had tons of weddings and tons of all sorts of different kinds of events, weddings, corporate outings. We would do like giant Easter egg hunts on the farm with hundreds and hundreds of kids and just all sorts of fun events like that.
Wow, no, that's amazing. That's definitely the entrepreneurial spirit. You're like, how many different ways can I use this piece of land? That's really good. I like that. So now you're in Sacramento. So what brought you from Boston to Sacramento?
So part of coming to Sacramento was for family. And then the other thing was also just seeing opportunities out here, trying to get involved in the community out here. Sacramento actually has a huge horse culture with almost no polo culture out here. And there's also an Armenian culture out here. And I'm trying to get into my roots with Armenia. I've spent 6 months out of the last year in Armenia riding horses all over the country, figuring out what they have going on out there. So I see huge opportunities out here and in Armenia when it comes to the horse and the polo industry. And so that's what I'm working on right now.
Nice. Well, welcome to Sacramento, man. I'm glad you're out here.
Thank you.
this general area. Now we get to learn more about polo, and we can see what you can do for us.
Yeah.
Well, at least the greatest city in the world, Sacramento.
Yeah.
Let's say someone wants to get into the sport of polo. Do they need to buy a horse to start?
No, they don't. So in the beginning, you'll just take lessons, and having a horse is a really specific kind of a relationship and thing that you're going to have. So you want to just start riding basic, easy lesson horses, taking some lessons. And after a little while, once you get comfortable and you realize, like, let's say you've never ridden a horse before, you're not going to know what kind of a horse to buy or anything like that. But after you do it for a little while, then you figure out, okay, I like these kind of horses, this size horse, this speed horse with these kind of buttons to push. And so then we'd go out and we go find that kind of a horse for you.
Nice. So you could basically, you don't have to buy a horse to start. You can start, and eventually, if you grow into that, when you're ready to buy a horse, then you can buy your own horse if you wanted to do that. So it's a lot easier to get into the sport than people might think.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. You don't need your own horse. It really is much easier to get into than you would think. We've taught thousands and thousands of people to play polo, literally thousands. And out of it, most of them didn't own their own horse. Most of them had no or very minimal riding experience when they started. I've had kids start that are like as young as 4 or 5, and I've had people who are in their 70s start learning polo.
Nice. It's a sport for all ages, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. I mean, who doesn't like riding a horse? It just sounds so cool. So you've made it very accessible to a lot of new clients, new customers, people that thought they couldn't get into it before. But as you're kind of breaking down those barriers and making it more accessible and opening it up for all walks of life, what was your growth like year over year?
Yeah, the growth really was tremendous, especially in an industry, which again, Sacramento back in the day used to have like 4 or 5 polo clubs. Now it has 1 polo club, which is not a very large polo club to say the least. Boston used to also have probably 4 or 5 polo clubs. Now there's really 1 real polo club and then a couple of other very, very small polo clubs. And so, like I said, we started with maybe 4 horses, and at the end, we would have over 100 horses seasonally with over 80 horses year round. And so the growth in terms of numbers of horses was tremendous. Year over year revenue growth has been 25% or more every single year. The metrics of the number of members that we've had grew to be one of the largest polo clubs by number of members in the Northeast United States. By nearly every metric, we really blew all the competition out of the water, and we're really still making a huge impact all around the country. Many of the players, top players at the high school and college level around the country are either our members or our alumni. Many coaches around the country are alumni or former employees or things like that we trained to develop.
What do you think you did differently to make it so successful and get that rapid growth that other polo clubs just didn't have? Like, what made you different?
So one of the things is trying to figure out a way to make it accessible to people. And like you touched upon, I believe, democratizing it and making it so that people don't need to own their own farm. They don't need to own their own horse, making it simple. To get into the sport, normally in most places, it's going to be a very complicated, expensive process. But to be able to use those economies of scale, I have a business mind. I'm like, okay, how can we take advantage of economies of scale? And how can we group people together to make this per person less expensive and more efficient? And so that's what makes it so that you can have people who just come out every now and then and play, and they don't need to own the horse, and they can come and show up and hop on this horse that other people are riding that's a really good horse. So that's really one of the big things. And then also running it like a business. Like I said, a lot of the people who own polo clubs or who are members of polo clubs, they're people who are very wealthy that are willing to throw a lot of money into something, as opposed to my mindset, especially being Armenian. I'm not going to throw money away at all. So making sure that every dollar counts and really running it very efficient and having a heart to be able to do this as well is a big thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Very much like thinking outside the box. You know what I mean? Finding those gaps and finding solutions and opening it up to more people. In terms of ranking, though, is there ranks or rankings for polo clubs, and how would the Boston Polo Club that you created rank?
Yeah, there's not any formal rankings when it comes to polo clubs or anything like that. There's ways you could rank them in terms of number of members. Again, we had a very large number of members, one of the largest in the Northeast. You could do it by number of different kinds of championships that you won or number of teams that you have. So we started a number of intercollegiate teams and a number of high school teams as well. One of our collegiate teams within 3 years won the collegiate national championship. The high school team within 6 years competed in the national championship. So like very high ranking when it comes to that. But we also had different lower levels as well. So I don't expect everybody to show up and become national championship level. You don't have to. But if that's what you want to do and commit to it, like any other sport, we will get you there. But if you just want to go and be a casual player and just want to go have fun and socialize after, I love the social aspect. There's nothing that's more fun than hanging out before with people, hanging out after. We have all sorts of great parties, great trips. You know, we take the horses and we go bring them to the beach and go swimming in the ocean with horses. Like there's nothing more cool than to do that with the other players. So really, we have something for everyone, whether you want to be that top competitor or just someone who's casual having fun.
Wow, yeah, you definitely created different tiers to all this. And the metrics, if you were to track it, like the amount of members that you have, the amount of horses that you have, the amount of trophies that you have, really is a testament on how successful the Polo Club has become and to your hard work and ethic. On the Boston Polo website, there's a training package. I was looking at that and I say, okay, well, if I buy a training session, what is that day actually going to look like for me?
Yeah, so the first thing that you're going to learn right when you show up is that the horse is paying attention to you as soon as you walk into the barn, and you want to pay attention to the horse as well. And so first it's going to be just acclimating yourself to the horse, how to behave around the horse, how to just lead the horse around on the ground, just like a dog. You know, they're going to follow you, but every now and then they're going to want to do their own thing. So how to do some of the basic controls. And just, to me, a big part of it is just learning the horsemanship, that piece of the ground manners, things like that. And then eventually we'll get you on the horse and we'll teach you the basics of riding. And believe it or not, it's, like I said, it's so much easier than you actually think. You think that it's this crazy animal and you maybe have seen a movie of horses running around all crazy. These are the best trained athletes in the world. They really are. And they're so mellow, and they're actually going to know that you're a beginner and that I'm not a beginner. So even if when I'm riding the horse is going fast, it's going to know that its job for you is to teach you the basics. And so it'll go nice and easy. We'll teach you the basics of how to ride the horse, how to steer it, how to stop, how to go, the basics of hitting. And over those packages, those lesson packages, we'll help you improve your riding and then teach you the basics of the rules of the sport as well, so that by the end of it, you know enough about the rules and the riding and the hitting to be able to play in a beginner type of a game. Now, you're not ready to go out there and play in a tournament. You probably don't want to go play with like Prince Charles or anything like that. You'll be embarrassed. But it's enough for you and your friends to go out there and hit some balls around and feel like you know what you're doing.
Oh, that's awesome. When people start going through some of these sessions, do you get any feedback of like, oh, I was really surprised about this, I was really surprised about that? And what is the thing that surprises new players the most?
The number one thing is just how relaxed and obedient the horses are. Like the horses know their job. And actually, they know it to the point where if you hit the ball forward, the horse will walk forward up to the ball and they will tee itself up for you to hit the ball again. They know it that well. They're literally going to go right to the point. Even if you don't know how to tee the ball up, the horse does because it's played so much polo. And so that's the number one thing, just how mellow the horses are, how safe they are, how the horses are going to teach you almost as much of the game as I am. And then the other thing is just how it was something that they really thought they might do once. And it was just going to be like a bucket list kind of thing. But after doing it once, they realized, wow, I actually could do this. This is something that I really love doing.
Nice. Yeah, that is surprising. The horses are very, very intelligent. To start training these horses and getting them all acclimated to the sport and everything, did you have to get a license or anything to do any of that?
No, there's no license for training the horses. There's places where you can go to learn how to do it. But again, a lot of it is people who have been doing it for a long time that are really well trained themselves, and you learning from those kind of people. And for training the horses, you start them fairly young, just becoming desensitized to humans, becoming acclimated to the humans. Eventually, you get them acclimated to riding. And then once they're acclimated to riding, then to the actual ball, into the mallet, into the game, and just a very slow process.
Okay, well, I think you got me on that one. I think Boston might have one cooler thing than Sacramento, because in Sacramento, there's a license for everything. if Sacramento can make it, they're going to make it.
Yeah, that's one thing I figured out, and if they don't have a license for you, they're going to figure out one pretty quick. They're going to make sure that they get you a license for that.
Absolutely. Well, what about some of the mistakes most new players make? What are the common mistakes that new polo players make?
Thinking that you know enough that you don't need to keep learning. Whereas so here's an example that I have. I thought after playing polo for a year that I knew how to play the sport. At 3 years, I thought that I could be really good at the sport. At 5 years, I realized I didn't know anything about the sport. So it's something that actually takes a really long time to learn. It takes a short time to learn enough to do the basics, but to really know the ins and outs of the sport and the horses, it takes a very long time. So just a lot of people will get over that initial hump. They'll feel very comfortable. And they're like, all right, I know enough. I'm just going to go do it on my own, as opposed to really being patient about learning all of the different details of it.
Yeah. You should never stop learning. That's for sure. There's always something to learn from everybody. To truly succeed in polo, what qualities does that person need to have?
You could be the best person when it comes to hitting a ball, but you also need to be able to be aware of what your horse is doing underneath you and what their abilities are. Your mind may be able to be thinking at 40 miles an hour, but if your horse can only move at 30 miles an hour, the two of you, your timing is off. So you need your timing to be really on. So for someone who's self-aware, that's a very important thing. Certainly, it's beneficial if you're athletic, but a lot of the people who play are not that athletic. We're not getting the top professional players in the world going and choosing polo. They're going to be playing soccer or basketball or something like that. But certainly, if you're athletic, you have some kind of a condition. People ask, oh, what can I do to be training for polo? Just be in decent physical shape. You are riding a large animal for an extended period of time. So you need to have some level of conditioning. Go out there running, go out there biking, lift some weights, things like that. You don't have to be the top athlete, but you do need to have some kind of conditioning. But self-awareness is the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's good to know. Self-awareness, because there's a lot going on. There's lots of horses on the field. You got to be in tune with the horse. And then there's this also side bonus content of, hey, be in shape a little bit. It's maybe it might be a little physical demanding because you are riding 1,000-pound horse. And yeah, just swinging a mallet for an hour, my arm's going to be falling off. That's for sure. Through all your experience training these polo players and everything and organizing and doing events and all that stuff, did you ever have to fire anybody off the team? Did you ever run into issues with players like that?
I don't like to think of it as firing someone as much as having a conversation. This isn't the right fit for you or for me. It's time for us to go our separate ways.
Oh, how unfortunate. Yeah. I guess it's just like anything else, Sometimes people are just not a good fit, and hey, that's perfectly fine to have those conversations.
Really, it's not unfortunate, because if the person stays on the team and they're not a good fit, again, it's not a good situation for them. So they're not going to be able to achieve their full potential. So sometimes it's better for them to find somewhere where they can fulfill their full potential. So I'm holding them back, keeping them on a team if I'm not able to let them be in that full potential. So that's the way I like to think of it. Same with whether you have an employee or if you're working in a place that you're not able to meet your full potential and they tell you, hey, we've got to let you go. It's sad for a little while, but next thing you know, you're working at a better job and you're actually grateful that they told you it was time to go because you were miserable at your old job.
Yeah, I mean, it's all perspective at the end of the day. So let's talk about horses for a little bit. There's so many different breeds. You mentioned a few earlier, but what are the best horse breeds for polo?
So most polo ponies are thoroughbreds, which are the type of horses that do the horse racing. That's like the Kentucky Derby and those sorts of things. There are other types of horses that can play polo. The quarter horse, which is like your typical ranch horse in America, is another popular kind of polo pony. You call them polo ponies, but they're actually horses and there isn't a specific breed. It's these types of breeds. A lot of them are mixes though. So a lot will be a breed between the quarter horse and the thoroughbred, or there'll be a local Argentine horse bred with a thoroughbred, or different kinds of mixes like that. And so the thoroughbred has a lot of speed. And then the other horses, like the quarter horses and stuff, will usually be slightly smaller and be able to stop and turn quicker and things like that. So you're putting a very fast horse and breeding it with a little bit smaller horse that's more agile.
Yeah, well, circling back to the sport for a second, you mentioned different horses. This one's more agile. This one's more of a fast runner. Are there different like key positions on the field that different players play? Like you have someone in the forward, someone in the back, like a defender. Mm-hmm. And do you pair them up with different horses that are like better at different parts of the game? Like maybe a different horse for a defender versus someone that's out in front?
Yeah, in an ideal team, your certain players are going to have horses that will fit what their role is, and they're usually going to play a similar role. So you're going to be positioned 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the ones are usually an attacking player who's going to stay down towards the goal we're trying to score in. They're trying to pick up goal passes to score. The 4 is going to be a defensive player that's going to stay more defending our goal and not go too far down to the other end of the field. And the 2s and 3s are going to be doing a lot of the running. And so you're usually going to have horses and riders' abilities based on that. The 4 doesn't have to necessarily be really fast, but they do need to hit the ball really well because they're trying to clear the ball out of their goal all the way down to get it onto our offensive end. And they're going to have horses that are handy enough and quick enough to be able to go pick up those loose balls and then send it back down to the other end. And you can change positions. So if one of my horses, I get out there and this horse normally is really fast, normally I'm playing 3, running back and forth all day long, but the horse happens to be tired and it's like, shoot, I can't run all day with this horse. I'll go tell my teammate, like the 4, hey, does your horse have energy? Mine doesn't have the energy today to play 3. I'm going to go play your position. Let's switch. And so you will make those kind of on-field transitions as well.
Wow. Yeah. Going back to that self-awareness is like really being in tune with the horse. And so speaking with like, having 2, 3 horses in, to play throughout the whole game, what does the maintenance look like for a horse?
So you've got your local horses that are, you're going to casually play. And then you've got your top level professional horses. Now for let's say if you wanted to go out or any of the people here in Sacramento wanted to go out and get a horse and, play polo a couple times a month or something like that, you're going to have to be getting its feet taken care of, putting horseshoes on. That's something that's like about every 6 weeks, you'll get horseshoes. A couple times a year, you get the vet to come check on the horse, give it some shots, things like that. And you're going to be exercising it. You want to exercise it just like us. You can go try to play and pick up basketball and play once a month. But if you go out there and shoot hoops, once or twice a week, you're going to be doing a lot better at pickup basketball. So it's the same kind of thing. You can go and just ride your horse 1 or 2 times a month, but it's going to be better if you do it a little bit more frequently. Oftentimes, again, it's like a seasonal thing. So if you're playing around here, you're probably mainly going to be riding it for 1 season. And the rest of the year, you'll go ride it occasionally just to see your horse and take care of it. It has to get fed every single day. I wouldn't recommend for most people doing the feeding themselves. Like, don't go buy a farm. Don't go think you're going to take care of your horse every single day. Let a professional do it. You buy the horse, you board it at a farm where they know how to take care of it, do the daily feeding, bring the horse out, maybe exercise it when you're not able to exercise it. So you can just go show up that one day and hop on the horse and know that your horse has been exercised and it's been taken care of.
Oh, well, yeah, that's actually a really good tip is, don't buy it, do it yourself. Let the professionals do it. They're doing it anyways, and they could probably do it at scale, and then you can just come pick up your horse whenever you want. So the maintenance is a lot less than what people would think, because at the end of the day, the professional is doing it, not you yourself. So if you have a side hobby, hey, or if you want to play polo, you could do it and not have to worry about like all of the maintenance side of things. Yeah, that's really good. What about the naming of the horses? I mean, I was looking online. You guys have some pretty cool names. You mentioned Corona earlier and stuff. So what goes into, or like, what's the process of naming a horse?
It's just like naming your children. It's whatever you want to name them after. Certain people have certain themes of what they'll want to name them. I saw this group chat of people talking about how they were naming their horses. One person's naming them after Greek gods. Another person is naming them after, mountains. Whatever they happen to want to name their horses, they'll find their niche of how they're going to name them.
Yeah, I was looking at one. His name was Samurai. I was like, that's a pretty dope name. I like that name.
Yeah.
Do you have any crazy story that comes to mind from any of your polo matches that you reffed or umpired back in the day?
I mean, the crazy thing is just the organization to get to the field, to play in the game, and then see how you perform, to be able to pull together, getting 10, 20, 30, 40 horses for your team together, to get the players together. That's the crazy thing. Sometimes we'll be bringing horses from multiple different states together for one polo match. So that's the thing. When you see a tournament, and let's say the tournament has 4 teams, you have 100 horses there, maybe from 4 or 5 different states. So like those kind of logistics are the crazy thing, believe it or not, is pulling all those horses together, getting the paperwork together, getting the medical records for the horses together, getting those horses in shape, getting the staff together. All of a sudden you've got some staff that are sick, or how it is, staff that went out partying or something like that, and you don't know what happened to them. And so then you have to find extra staff that are trained in this very unique type of a sport. So you find them somewhere and bring them in from wherever they're from. So that's the unique thing that really is crazy, just pulling all of these pieces together.
So no, not so much the match itself. The match is pretty, you're playing the game, it's polo, it's all that stuff. But behind the scenes, that's where all the craziness happens. And that's where you're like, all right, we're going to make this happen today. One way or another, we're going to overcome whatever is coming our way.
Mm-hmm.
For someone that's seriously considering getting into the sport of polo, you have any tips or advice for them?
Just to reach out to whatever your closest polo club is and ask them if there's a way that you can try to play polo, or reach out to me to ask if there's a way that you can try it out once, and just to do it. Like, the hardest thing is just to show up there on the side of the field. Once you show up, then, you're there, you're going to have an experience. I guarantee you it's going to be an amazing experience. But yeah, I would say not to wait, but to just to jump in and try it out.
Yeah, just give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at the Boston Polo Club, what are you most proud of?
The opportunities that I gave to people. Just the number of people that came and thought they had no chance of ever being able to play polo or barely even ride horses. So many people that show up and they say, someday I want to play polo, but today I'm okay if I just ride a horse. And then giving them that opportunity to go from there to being able to feel competent playing polo in the future, and being able to develop the friendships, the relationships, and being able to learn about horses and this entire world that they thought they never would have been able to achieve.
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's fast forward 10 years. Where do you hope the Boston Polo Club is?
Well, I hope it's here. I hope it's in Armenia. I hope it's all around the world. I mean, it really is right now. I mean, the number of people that I've taught the sport to that are coaches all around the country, all around the world, number of players that we have that are playing around the world, it really is around the world right now. But just to continue to grow those networks around the world.
Let's say a viewer out there is watching and they're like, man, I really wish you asked this one question. What would that question or topic be that we didn't cover?
One of the interesting things to me is just the history of it in the Middle East and Armenia. And it would be, why was there polo there back in the day and not any polo anymore? And the Emperor's Palace in Constantinople had a polo ground on it. All the major cities of the Byzantine Empire had polo fields at those cities. Ephesus had a polo field just a stone's throw away from the theater that was the riot in the Book of Acts. And so there's all these old polo fields around there. And so it was played by all these different Christians at the time. And after the Ottoman Empire took over, they tried to suppress the cultures, these Christian cultures. And one of the ways they suppressed the Christian cultures was by banning Christians from riding horses for over 300 years. And so it took this rich horse culture from that area where Armenia was supplying horses around the world. And that was some of the top horses from around the world, to where 300 years later, almost no one over there. I'm sure your family didn't ride horses or anything like that. And it's this piece of history that was taken from us. And so part of the thing that really drives me right now with the shift in my business and the shift in my life is to try to give people over there that opportunity as well. Because I've given people here in America the opportunity. I've given people around the world the opportunity. And so I'm really hoping just to re-engage that piece of our history that right now is missing.
Wow, that's an amazing fact. I did not know that there was the whole persecution, but in addition to that, no more polo.
Yeah.
That's really good. That is a really interesting fact. Mark, if people are wanting to find out more about polo, what are the social media contacts, the websites where people can go to find out more?
Yeah, so you can go to the U.S. Polo Association's website, which is uspolo.org, but also definitely check out my website, my social media handle, bostonpolo.org, Boston Polo on Instagram, on Facebook. And feel free to reach out to me, even if you're not in a place where I'm at. I'm sure I know a professional polo trainer that's in your area, and I would love to hook you up. And if you want to be involved in any of my future projects, would love to hear from you.
Nice. We'll get all the social media handles, the contacts. We'll drop it in the description.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do the lower thirds. We'll pop it up on screen so people that are watching can get there quicker and know exactly where to go. We have a segment where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest. And my last guest, there was two people, so I'm going to give you two questions. And the first question left for you is, if you were to do something impactful this year, what would it be and why?
I would give more people in more geographic areas, specifically here in Armenia, the opportunity to ride horses and play polo, because it's something that, again, has meant so much to me, and I've seen the impact it's had on thousands of people. And it's also breaking barriers. It's something that we haven't talked a lot about, but the number of people that have played at my polo club who were single moms or who just didn't come from a background that normally you would think would have afforded them the opportunity to play polo, and to be able to break that barrier and have this melting pot where you have these people who really are the haves and people who really are those of us that just want to work hard and just enjoy our life. So you have this big melting pot. You have a melting pot of people who have a lot of horse experience, who have no horse experience, but that melting pot's a really cool, unique experience.
Nice. Yeah. Making it more accessible for people to play polo. Yeah, that is impactful. At the end of the day, it does create a lot of opportunity and a lot of relationships. The second question I have for you is, what qualities do you look for in others, and why do those qualities matter to you when you're looking for a client or a business partner?
It's really the quality of the person. I can pick and choose the kind of people, both in terms of business partners or clients to have, and someone that's going to be a thoughtful, caring person like me. I don't want to be out there on a team with someone who's just out there all for themselves, who doesn't care about anything else. So it's really just people who really are thoughtful, caring people. And oftentimes the sport will actually open up people more to realizing how much they need their teammates. They may think, okay, I'm pretty athletic, I can go out and do all this on my own. But team sports are unique. Team sports, you can't do it all on your own. Eventually you need your teammate to pass that ball to.
Is looking for, I guess, a good person, whether they're a client or a business partner, is really if they have the same heart and passion for the things that if that's a fair summary anyways.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Mark, this has been an incredible conversation, and thank you for coming on to today's episode of the Key Concepts podcast. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. Well, for everyone listening, whether you came here knowing nothing about polo or you've always been curious and felt intimidated, I hope this conversation has reminded you that growth usually lives outside of your comfort zone. So if you're interested in polo, give it a shot. Thank you for watching this episode of Kikasa's podcast. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Nice job.